So hello everyone to this new video, and this video is going to be the second part for the single page login and sign up video that I've made. So go check that out as well. So it is this one, login and sign up page. So this if you haven't seen this video of creating this login and sign up UI, then go check that out as well. And in this video I'm going to show you how you can write the backend part for this login and sign up page. So I'm going to use PHP for getting the data from the user and then sending the data to the database and storing that, and for that we are going to use MySQL. So as we are going to go through the backend coding, so we need a server. So in this video I'm going to use XAMPP as the local server. So this is the XAMPP control panel, and if you haven't installed XAMPP on your system, then I'll give the link in the description down below. So go there and download this and install it on your system. So after installing XAMPP, so if you have installed it on the C drive, then you are going to see a XAMPP XAMPP folder. So go into that folder and you have to go into the htdocs folder, and here you have to paste all the files that you have for that project. So these are my files, and and when you have freshly installed this XAMPP, then there will be already some files that are going to be there. So copy them, and if you want to store them somewhere, then store them, or you can straight away delete them, because you will not need them in this video, or after this video also you won't require those files. So if you want to delete those files, then you can do that, or you can store them somewhere else, then do that as well, and copy all your project files here so that we can run those. So now I have copied these files here, and let's get started with the coding part. Okay, so in this video I'm going to use Visual Studio Code for this project. And if you have installed Visual Studio Code and you want to do this PHP coding, then if you have installed any of the PHP extensions, then they are not going to work. So for them to work, you have to install PHP, and as we have installed XAMPP, so it comes with PHP. So what you have to do is you have to go into that XAMPP folder. So this is the XAMPP folder, and search for the PHP folder, that is this. Click on it and you have this path here. So copy this path. You will have to set this path in the environment variable. So right click on this PC, go into properties, and then click on this advanced system settings, and then here click on environment variables, and here select this path and click on edit. And here you will have to create a new, and you will have to paste that. So as you can see, I have already pasted here, and if you want to see if the path is set properly, then you will just need to go into the command prompt and then write here php space -v, and it is going to spit out the version for the PHP that is installed on your system. So this is the PHP, so it's working fine, and your extensions that you have on Visual Studio Code, they will also work fine. Okay, so now let's start with the project. So this is the htdocs folder. So these are all the files that I have in this htdocs folder. So now first of all I'm going to go through this. So if you have seen that UI design video for login and sign up page, then you will notice that there are a lot of new files and folders here. So this is one folder that I have created that is new, that wasn't there in that video, and all those PHP files also were not there in that video. So I have created those. So first of all, let's start with the source folder. So in this source folder I have two PHP files. One is db_connect and another is session. So let's first start with the db_connect.php file. Okay, so now let's start with this file. So first of all, we are going to write the basic PHP syntax, and then first we are going to create a variable named username, and we will assign it root. So to access the database in MyAdmin, we have to use the default username, that is root. And if you have created any other username, then you can write that here as well. And then the password, so I haven't set any password, so I'm going to keep it blank. And then comes this long string. So what this is, I'm going to tell you. So this is required to connect to the database. So we have specified the host name for the MySQL database, so that is the local host. And then there is the name of the database. So if you have created any other name, then you have to specify that name here. So db name is equal to my database, so the name of the database that I'm going to use is mydb. And then after we are going to write a try block, and in the try block I have created a con named variable, and I have specified all these three variables that I have created in this PDO. So we are going to use PDO for getting the data and storing the data into the database. So PDO stands for PHP data object. So I'm going to use PDO, and here with this statement I have set the error modes for the PDO, and then after the catch statement, and here I just want to print a message with whatever the error that is. So with this variable that I have created, that contains all the error messages. So I'm going to get that using this get message method, and they are going to be printed on the screen if there is any error in connecting to the database. So that's it for this file. Let's go on to the next file. Okay, so the next file is session.php. So in this session.php, we are just going to start the session, and we are going to include this file in other PHP files that we have created. Okay, so now we are done with the source folder. Now let's start with the signup file first. So signup.php. Okay, so in signup.php, let's start with this first line. So this is the require ones. So here we are giving the path for our db_connect.php. So now we have two different PHP files for signup and for login. So to not repeatedly write this connection statements that we just saw in the db_connect.php file, so that's why we have created a separate file for that connect one, and we are just going to include that file like this. So there is another statement also, that is include once. So we are not using that, we are using this required ones. And why we are doing this is because if we write here include once, then it does the same thing that this does, except for if this file is not there or not available, then it is just going to throw a warning and the code will execute as it is. While what this required once does is it is going to throw a fatal error, and the execution is just going to stop there. So this is what we want here, as if there is no connection file to the database, then there is no point in running the code. So we are using require_once. Then moving on, we are going to write here the if block. So in this if block, we are going to check for this button click. So I have used the name of the button here, that is signup_btn. so this is the same name that I've used in the sign up form. So we are just checking whether that button is clicked or not. So if that button is clicked, then we are going to execute this statements. So first of all, we are going to get the data of the username that the user has entered in the user input box using this $_post, and we are storing that value in this username variable. Then after, we are storing the value for email in this variable, and then the password. And then after here, we want to store the hash value for the password that the user has entered into the database. So we are going to create a hash of that password, and then we are going to store that hash into the database, not the plain text that we are going to get from that field. So to do that, I have used password_hash method. So with this method in PHP, here you have to specify first the password, the plain text of the password that you're going to get from that input field, and then you have to specify the algorithm that you want to use for hashing that password. So I have used password_default. This is a default hashing algorithm that the PHP is going to use, and then I have stored it into this hash_password variable. And then after, I have created this try block, and in this try block, I'm going to write the SQL query for inserting the data into the database. So let's take a look at this insert query. So if you know the SQL a little bit, then it is the same query that is for inserting the data. So there is no change here. The query is as it is. You just are storing the query into this variable. That's it. So here, insert into users. So users is a table that we are going to create in our database, and in that these are all the fields that we have to create, and these are all the values that we are going to put in these fields. So as you can see here, these are not the variables that we have specified here. So for that, we have to write this prepared statement. So as you can see here, I have created this statement variable, and this is the connection variable that we have in our database_connect.php file, and we are preparing to execute this statement to insert data into the database. And here it is the execute method and then array, and in that we have specified this reference and then the name of the variable, that is the username. So you can also pass on this variable directly here, but I don't recommend that. You have to use this reference to do that. So I have passed on these, and then after, we are going to check whether this query is performed, and we have a row count in our database. So if we have a row count, so that means that the data is successfully stored in the database. Then we are going to redirect the user into the main page, that is our login page. So that page is the index.html, and then after, we are going to write a catch statement where we are just going to print out whatever the error message is, and that's it. So this is the signup.php file. Okay, now let's start with the login.php file. So in this file, we are going to write two main statements in the start, that are the require once statements. So these are those two require_once So first of all, we are giving the path for this session.php file, and then the second one is our db_connect.php file to connect to the database. So we are using this session.php to start a session after the login is successfully done. So let's see how we can do that. So after that, I have created this if block. So in this if block, we are just checking whether this login-btn, that is a login button that I have created, so it is the name for that button. So we are checking whether that button is clicked or not. So then after, if that button is clicked, then we are going to get the username that the user has entered using the $_post, and then we are storing it into this user variable. Then we are going to get the password and store it as well. And then after, in this try block, we are going to write this select query. So we are going to select the row from the database that has this username that the user has specified. So we are going to write this prepare statements, and as you can see, execute array and then this reference, and we are assigning this to the variable where the username that the user has entered is there. And then after, we are going to check in this while statement if we fetch any of the rows having this username, then this while statement is going to be executed. So we are going to get the ID for this particular user. So the row ID for that is going to be get from using this $row variable, and we are going to store it into this ID variable. And then after, we are going to get the hashed password that we have stored into the database and also store it onto a variable, and we are going to get the username also. And then after, in this if statement, I have checked whether the password that the user has entered here in the password field and the password that we have get from the database, are they same or not. So if they are same, then this if block is going to execute. So I have checked that using this password_verify. So this is a predefined method in PHP with which you can check the hash password and the password, plain text password that the user has entered. So we are going to check them, and if the password matches, then we are going to start a session for this ID, and we are going to also store this username into this session variable. So we have created these two session variables where we are going to store the ID and username for the user. And then after, we are going to redirect the user to this dashboard.php page. And then after, in this else statement, so if the password doesn't match, then this else statement is going to execute, and here we are going to just print this error message that the password or the username is invalid. And then after, in this catch block, also I am going to print out the error message, whatever error that there is while running this query. So that's it for this login.php file. Now let's start with this dashboard.php file. And as you know that we can also write the PHP syntax and the HTML syntax both into PHP file. So I am going to use PHP and HTML syntax both side by side in this file. So first of all, I have this file, that is the session.php included, and then after, so these are the basic HTML tags, and in this body I have specified this if statement in PHP. So as you can see here, if then is set, so I have written here exclamation mark. So this means that if this session variable is not set, then the user is going to be redirected to this location, that is the Logout.php file that we have also created, and I'm going to show you that file also in a bit. So this is that statement, and we also have else, and we haven't specified anything. That means it is going to execute this file as it is, and then we are ending this if statement. And then after I have written this welcome message, where I have used this $_session variable to get the name of the user and print this on to the screen, onto the dashboard. And then at the end, this is an anchor link to the Logout.php file. So that's it for this dashboard.php file. Now let's take a look at the Logout.php file. Okay, so this is the Logout.php file, and in this file I have first statement, the require_once, and I have this session.php files path set here, and then session_destroy. What this does is it is going to destroy the user session that is running, and then after we are going to redirect the user to this index.html file. So this is the Logout.php file. Okay, so we are done with all the PHP files. Now let's go on to the index.html file, and I have also made changes in that file. So in this file, so first of all, this is the login form, and in this login form, as you can see, we have to specify the login.php file in this action attribute. And now in the signup form, I have specified the signup.php files path. And then if you have seen my previous video, then I also had another field here. I have removed that field because we don't need that field for this signup form. Okay, so now let's run this project onto our browser. Okay, so for running this, we first have to start our XAMPP server. So we are going to start the Apache and then MySQL. Okay, so both are started. So as you can see here, it is showing green, so they are running now. Okay, so now that we have started the server, so let's open our browser, and here let's type localhost. So this is our login and sign up page. So this is the index page that is running right now, and let's go on to this sign up. So this is the sign up form. Now this form won't work as we have not connected any database for that. So as you can see here, there are errors for saying that an unknown database is there, then the variable that is for connecting to the database is undefined, and all those kind of errors are being displayed. So first of all, we will have to create the database and the table, and then we can check these two forms whether they are working properly or not. So let's go on to the PHPMyAdmin. So localhost /PHPMyAdmin. So PHPMyAdmin is an open source tool for MySQL, and it is written in PHP. So here we are in PHPMyAdmin. So now we have to create a new database. So we are going to click on this new button, or you can also go onto this database tab, and here is the form for creating the database. So here we have to specify the database name. So now let's go into our source folder and db_connect.php, and here, as you can see here, the name of the database that I have written is MyDB. So I have to write this same name here, so MyDB, and then you have to keep everything else as it is and click on create. So it is created. Now let's write the table name. So table name is this one that we have written here. So this is the table name, users. So let's write that, users, and this is going to have this number of columns. So I'm just going to add one more, and you can also add or remove columns after creating this, so don't worry about that. So let's click on go, and here are all the columns. So first of all, let's go on to our code. So okay, so here is the SQL query that we have written, and in this query, as I've said before, these are all the column names that we have to set. So here the first is this, that is username. So let's copy, and first here I have to specify another column, that is the ID, and we want this length of this to be 6, and here it should be auto incremented. So whenever a new user data is inserted, then this ID field is going to take a successive number automatically. So this is for that, and then after here and it is set to primary key, as you can see that, and then after for this column it is username, and we want it to be of varchar type, and the length is 50. Then after password, so let's copy, paste it. This is also varchar, and 255, and then email varchar 100, and then to date, and then here. So here we have to set the type to date time. So as you can see, I have specified this now method. So what this is going to do is, the moment the user has pressed the sign up button and the query of this insertion is fired, it is going to take the time and date from that system and is going to store it onto the database. So this is what is happening here. And now let's click on save. Okay, so our users table is created. So this is set to auto increment, and all the columns that we have created is shown here. Okay, so now is the time to check whether it works or not. So let's go here. So this is our site. Let's refresh it, and let's go into the sign up form, and I'm going to specify Akash and gmail.com, and then 1 2 3 4 5 6. So let's click on sign up, and we haven't had any errors, so that's a good sign. And let's refresh it. So I'm just going to click on this browse button. Okay, so as you can see here, all the data that I just entered is successfully inserted, and the password is hashed, as you can see here. Let me zoom in. Okay, so the password is hashed, and this is the to date. So here is the date and the time when this data was inserted in this table. and as you can see here, it automatically took the number 1. We didn't insert this 1 in our form, it just automatically took this, and it is going to increment it on every single data that is going to be inserted in this table. Okay, so now let's try logging into this. Let's zoom out. Okay, so the username is Akash and 1 2 3 4 5 6, and that's it. We have successfully logged into our system. So it says welcome Akash to a dashboard, and here we have a logout button. So if we click on this logout button, then it is going to redirect us to this index.html page. So we have successfully completed creating this login and sign up form in PHP, and also using this MySQL database. And now I wanted to show that session thing that I talked about. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into this logout, and I'm going to erase that, and I'm going to erase this also. Now let's refresh and let's log in. So Akash and 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, so we have successfully logged in. Now let's click on logout, and now click on this back button on our browser. So as you can see, we are back into our dashboard.php, and even if we again click on this logout and again go back, we are still able to access this dashboard.php file, which we should not be able to as we have clicked on logout. So that's why this is important. And let me show you one more thing. So even if I have written here session destroy, and I have not written those lines in this dashboard.php, now let's see what happens. So refresh, and Akash 1 2 3 4 5 6, and we have logged in. So log out, then again let's go back, and we are still able to access it, and it is just showing that this username is not defined, but still we are able to access this. So that's not a good thing. So now let's just write this again. So I have written this back. Now let's run this again. So Akash 1 2 3 4 5 6, and login and log out, and then back. So as you can see here, I am not able to go on to the dashboard.php file. No matter how many times I click back or forward, I'm just redirected to this index.html file. And even if I go directly by writing dashboard.php, still I'm being redirected to this index.html file. So this is what we want. So this is how you can create a login and sign up form. And if you like this video, then click on the thumbs up button, and if you want to see more of these videos, then do subscribe to this channel also. So that's it for this one, and I will see you in the next one.